in April 2019, we held a conference with 132 different mosques asking the following question: can we have a united Islamic calendar in the UK? And the answer was yes, if we work together. So let me show you what we discussed at that conference, the progress we've made since that conference, and the next steps we have to take as a community to work towards this calendar. We then presented our 4 criteria that we believe that any Islamic calendar would have to adhere to in order for it to find unity in the UK. Now, this is a common sense and non-controversial set of criteria. I'll show you them now, and we've developed them by speaking to hundreds of mosques and thousands of people around the country. And the 4 criteria to have a united calendar in the UK are as follows. It must, 1, be Islamically valid. 2, scientifically valid. 3, it must be acceptable to the Muslim community. And 4, this proposal must be practicable to the Muslim community. Meaning we can't come up with a proposal which is so difficult to implement, we can't actually practically do it. So in this conference, we looked at the most common proposals and we matched them against this criteria. So let's now look at them in turn. So what if we all followed a calculated calendar? It's Islamically valid, we accept that. It's scientifically valid, it's quite practical, yes. However, vast numbers of Muslims, imams and scholars who live in the UK believe that following a fixed calculated calendar is actually impermissible. These Muslims say that the Prophet ﷺ in hadith forbade using a fixed calculated calendar, and he emphasized in hadith that we must physically sight the moon every month. Thus, if you have large sections of the community who literally believe that a calculated calendar is impermissible and that sighting the moon is a commandment of the Prophet ﷺ, then we would suggest that a calculated calendar would not find unity in the UK. What about following Saudi? Is it Islamically valid? Yes. However, there are big question marks about the scientific validity of Saudi Arabia, which we've covered extensively in other videos. There's a long history of seeing the moon in Saudi when it's not scientifically possible to see, including reports of seeing the moon when the moon is below the horizon, which many Muslims in the UK have told me they find very troubling. And because of this, there are many mosques which refuse to follow Saudi Arabia, and so it appears that following Saudi would not be a solution that brings unity in the UK. What about following Morocco? Now, this is a solution that many mosques who do not follow Saudi opt for. Again, Islamically valid. And they have a very good moon sighting practice in Morocco. There are some scientific question marks about following Morocco, because although Morocco is relatively close to us compared to other countries, their moon visibility does not match our moon. And so scientifically, it means when we follow Morocco, we are not in sync with our own moon in the UK. But the big issue about following Morocco came up in my subsequent conversations with many mosques who follow Saudi. And they said to me plainly, how can we stop following Saudi and just follow another country like Morocco instead? It doesn't make sense to us. They said, we would consider following local sightings if that was an option, but we're not going to stop following Saudi just for another country. And as such, I do not see following Morocco as a position which brings about unity. What about global sightings? I mean, there's a lot of question marks about this which we've covered already in other videos, but let me just explain from a practical perspective. Imagine if you live in the UK. After sunset, you would have to wait for an additional 6 hours until the next morning, until it was night time in California, to hear whether they've seen the moon or not. This is not practical, especially at the end of Ramadan and Eid. And this is why, as far as I know, there is no Muslim community on earth which actually conducts this global moon sighting practice, because it's not a real practical solution. And what about local sightings? Is it Islamically valid? Yes. Is it scientifically valid? Of course. Is it acceptable? Yes. And what we found is that because this was the actual practice of the Prophet ﷺ, his family and earliest Muslim generations, it is not met with any controversy. Is it practical? In the past, there was a question mark around this, but Alhamdulillah, in the UK, with your help, we have trained moon sighters looking for the moon up and down the country. And now we have 3 years and 9 months, almost 4 years of consecutive moon sighting data demonstrating we can have a perfectly functional Islamic calendar in the UK, just like other Muslim communities. Sometimes we see the moon, for example, in London, but we don't see it in Bolton. Sometimes we see it in Birmingham, but it's cloudy elsewhere. But in this way, when we connect with one another and we work together, we have found that we can have an Islamic calendar here in our own locality. This has never been achieved before, and in a sense represents a historic step for Muslims living in the UK. Although this is a new solution to the UK, it's not a new solution to Muslims. This is the practice of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the practice of Islamic civilization for centuries. And it's currently being used by Muslim communities around the world, like here in Bangladesh, or in South Africa, or in Morocco. And I've actually had the privilege of visiting those 3 communities and meeting their moon sighting committees. And I've learned from them. We can learn from their best practices. And I can tell you, it's not actually that complicated. So if our proposal is to have a local moon sighting calendar in the UK, what are our next steps? Our proposed next steps for ourselves is to now bring it back to the community, engage in mosque, engage with you, and start a big community conversation. You know, in my head, I've got a dream that maybe we can have another conference at the Royal Observatory Greenwich, where we're all there, we can have the media there, and together we can launch a united Islamic calendar for the UK. So that's our proposal, and we'd love to hear from you. If you have any ideas, if you've got any thoughts or feedback, you can contact us. Just go to our website, which is www.newcrescentsociety.org, and you can contact us directly there, and we'd love to hear from you.